Are we live? I want to say we are currently live right now. So, with that being said, hey guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys another Eden Zero chapter live stream discussion. Yes, for those of you who aren't aware, I just recently moved into my new place. I'm still trying to get things set up. So, for the time being, you aren't gonna get the usual live reactions I normally do for the chapters. For the time being, it's just gonna be me discussing the chapters after I finish reading them, which is still a lot of fun to do. Don't get me wrong about that. It's still a lot of fun to just sit back, read the chapter on my own, and then just do a discussion based on that. And if you guys prefer this method of me just reading the chapter and then just doing a discussion, like how I've been doing lately, that's fine. I'm totally okay with doing that. But let's go ahead and actually get into the chapter because oh my god, there's the last chapter I thought was crazy. The chapter before I thought was crazy too. And Hero somehow just manages to say, "Oh, you think we're gonna stop there? You think we're gonna stop the craziness right there? Let me add some more weight to it. Like if we were at if this was like a 5 pound dumbbell with 181, and 182 was like a 10 pound uh dumbbell. Let's equate 183 to a 20 pound dumbbell because oh, I've been saying it for weeks. I'm saying this right here, right now. Shit's been getting crazy, and this chapter is only proving it, and by a lot. Now, as y'all know, whether we have this situation where we go chapter by chapter, panel by panel, building up things. So let's go ahead and actually dive into chapter 183, titled Ali Linder. Now, initially, when I read the chapter, I just thought, oh, okay, it's just titled Lindered. But then I was like, wait, wasn't there already a chapter titled Call Lindered? Like, if I'm actually going back on the chapter title right now, going off from the wiki. Yeah, actually no, there wasn't a chapter title called Lindered, but I just thought it was just just the planet title. So I was like, oh, okay. But the fact that it was called Lee Lindered, I was like, oh, I wonder what that entails. And of course, we see a Moscow of all characters looking pretty badass in this uh cover page, if you will. Moscow, we all know Moscow is kind of like the mascot, if you will, or a mascot because there's also Pino, but he's often like a joke character. And that's the thing. Moscow's often always kind of been like a joke character. So seeing him over here in this cover page with, like a scarf and some sheets kind of cover himself, I was like, all right, it's a bit goofy. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, it's like, what are you prepped up for? But that's besides the point. So we immediately cut off to where the last chapter ended off, where we see Homura in her new design, or as I like to call it, the Warrior Made 95. Was it 95? Okay, y'all know, like Homura's a battle made armor outfit. That I already gave my thoughts on that, which was still pretty cool to see nonetheless. It was still really, really cool. And we see Shiki saying, so this is planet Linder. And Rebecca says it really is all machines. Wise. It's like a factory. And off the gate, we see Hermit communicating both with Homura and with Elsie. Shiki, Rebecca, Wise, and Homura. You all had You all head for the planet's core. Elsie, I hope you'll join them. Understood. what Homura says, and then Elsie just says, "All right." Thus, we get sisters saying, "Jin, Clean, and Laguna, you're with us. We're killing giants. You got it." And then back to Hermit, she says, "We have to defeat Crow and stabilize the outer frequencies before we can summon the chronophage." Which again is a pretty big deal with this entire assault, given that that's the plan that was kind of laid out. And Holy says, "You say defeat Crow like it'll be so easy." And then Hermit says, "Can you pilot a night gear? I've had the training. We do have night gears with the midnight, is what Holy says." And then Hermit says, "You saw Warrior Made 95. 8. Okay, it was 95. I was off by 10, but it's close. I'm guessing the night gear on our ship are all higher performance." And then Holy says, "Let me guess. Using Eden Zero's night gear, you're being treated like a member of the crew. Shiki's order," which again is something I brought up a while ago. But there is something about Holy that I haven't really brought up in the last couple weeks. But there is this case where Holy is going to backstab them. I feel like that's what's going to happen. At some point in this arc, it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can see it coming from a mile away for sure. It's, I don't know. It's just something I can't really, you know, avoid when it comes to Holy, because she's often had this presence to her, especially when we got her a little bit before in the previous arc, the year X95 arc, was it? No, that's Fairy Tale. Um, X495, yeah, the X495 arc, the last arc before the Kaede War arc. Like we see these little instances here and there where it kind of feels like, huh, not exactly a trustworthy presence just by the way Heroes kind of implemented a few panel layouts here and there with Holy being depicted, So it's interesting. There, which is kind of something you have Hermit say, "You did background checks on this. So I researched everything about your past too." And this is key. This is a pretty key thing because Hermit says, "I know what Crow did to you, what he took from you," which completely shocks Holy. And I know some people are kind of going like, maybe this could mean things aren't exactly what they seem with Holy. Maybe all those suspicions we had, maybe those were all just kind of like red herrings, if you will. And it could still be that. It could. But I don't know, it's still one of those things where I'm like something's gonna happen for sure. But you see Holy shocked, and then Hermit says, "You should fight. You can only conquer past humiliations by doing it yourself." And then Holy says, "Thank you. I'm happy you're willing to help." Thus, we see the fighters going through as they're entering Lindard, and we have some countermeasures happening too with Shiki. And Y says, "So where's this core you keep talking about?" We see Hamura with her Warrior May 95 outfit, doing whatever she can. Based on its name, I presume it is at the planet's core. And then Pino says, "It appears to be underground." That's perfect. Let's go underground. Assuming we can get past this anti-aircraft fire. And again, as this goes, you're even seeing the Eden Zero ship pull off some countermaneuvers too when it comes to this particular scenario. And then Elsie, "I'll let you handle the airborne enemies. Shiki and I will go underground." "Yes, From here on out, it's hand-to-hand combat. And then you see Pino setting a beacon at our destination, going down. And then we cut to Rebecca, which we know has been a pretty apparent thing with what's been happening with her character. This whole revelation behind the chronophage and how they're attracted to Rebecca. It's kind of creeping up on her again because we see Rebecca going like, "I'm going to summon a chronophage," like super confident on what the plan's going to be, and make it eat all of Linder. Where I go, chronophages follow. Where I went, and all of a sudden, as soon as she says where I went, she just kind of blacks out as we hear a saying, Becca or Ka and Rebecca, which completely stuns her. And she's like, what just happened? And she got it. She gets hit, which Shiki notices right off the gate and calls out her name. Miss Rebecca's starfighter. She's hit. She's going to crash, is what Pino says. And immediately, and this is something Shiki did say a few chapters back, how he's going to make sure Rebecca's safe and sound. And we see him doing exactly that. Not if I can help it. Master, wait for me at the rendezvous point. And Shiki's going right towards the ship, saying Rebecca happy. Rebecca's unconscious. He grabs, he holds her in his arms just as the ship's about to explode. Which he points out, and then, he hightails and runs. Or at least crashes into one of the buildings. Which Herbert says Rebecca's fighter's damaged. What happened? She was hit. Shiki went to rescue her. Or went to her rescue. Same difference almost. How are her vitals? And then we see Sister saying, looks like she's unconscious but unhurt. For now, I'll set a beacon at the point of her fall. Which says, from Pino, Master told us to wait for them at the rendezvous point. What should we do? And Hermit says, comms are still alive, right? Sorry, but I'm going to have to let you use your own judgment. We've got our own hands full trying to take control of the airspace. And we can see that too with the ship going through, and as the attacks and the buildings are still aiming towards them in more ways than one. And then we cut back to Homura. Shiki, do you read me? Is what Weiss says, which, of course, we see Weiss and Peanut just right there. And as Shiki's, holding on to Rebecca, he says, yeah, I read you. Rebecca, happy, are you okay? And Rebecca says, sorry, which Shiki says, what a relief. Where's Happy? Which, again, I brought this up in the last chapter discussion about the possibility that Happy could potentially die, which immediately, no, of course, we know the bond Rebecca and Happy have. It's a pretty deep bond, given what we've known from chapter 2. But ever since Rebecca's nightmares kicked in, and we've only gotten that one little instance, but it is a nice little subtle thing where she's worried, and it kind of makes you go like, well, Happy biting the bucket. Again, I still think that's a possibility, right? I still think for sure we're gonna get some casualties. Um, Elsie for sure, and then, like I said, Happy, which he says, I'm fine, and we see Rebecca embracing Happy. I'm sorry, I spaced out for a second. Are you okay? I am now. What about the others? And Shiki, Wise, we're fine here. Happy and Rebecca is what the Wise says. And Shiki says, they're not hurt. You? I'm standing by with Amor and Pino. I don't see Elsie anywhere. And Pino says, following her indicator, she appears to be acting independently. Which Shiki says, well, I don't think we need to worry about her. Which Anytime someone says that, I'm like, see, that's when I think we should worry the most. Anytime a character says we shouldn't worry about them, that's the opposite of that normally happens. And that's not just a manga thing, by the way, guys. That's like just storytelling in general. Anytime someone says don't worry about them, you know some shit happens. You know? Anyway, let's meet up. Can you get over here? Let me check the beacon. We're on our way. Is what Shiki says to Wise and Wise refers back to Shiki. Interestingly enough, now we cut over to another part of the planet with the machines and whatnot, and we see Elsie. Shiki, I understand your plan, but Ziggy is one foe I must take down myself. The one who saved me, who taught me the importance of the family we find in our crewmates. The one, no, that one has gone mad. He's completely out of control. I can't stand to see him like this any longer. Still enough, we see some feet walking through. I swear, I will be the one who, which we know is Elsie. And I'm gonna just say right now, and I haven't done this for a while, but Hero's art is superbly on point. Superbly on point. Like, especially with this panel right here where she's just like walking in and you see like some of like the not debris if you will, but some of like the broken structures of this building she's walking into with some damages that were done. It's incredible. Like I really like the contrast here where you see a little bit of darkness here and a little bit further down is the light. Kind of like which again kind of goes to a point where I think we should be worried because it opens up and you see light. And the little credence of darkness we see in this panel is kind of indicating that, yeah, what Elsie is about to walk into is not something we should take for granted. It's a subtle thing, and I might be looking a little bit too much into it, but as someone who loves storytelling, loves subtlety and whatnot, that's what I get from this panel. That's honestly what I get. But besides the point. So we get the next part of the chapter where we see what looks like a kingdom and it's like in ruins and whatnot. And then we see a fountain like right in the center. In the center of it all, there's a fountain. As Elsie's walking up to it. And at first I was like, hold on. I've seen that fountain before, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, at least for a moment. Because I sat there, I looked at that fountain, and I'm like, why does that fountain look so familiar? It was just kind of one of those things that just stood out to me. And then we see the little balcony up in the corner. And when I saw the next panel, I was like, no, that's way, way too familiar. And Elsie even like looks at that too. Which we flash back to that one scene that Elsie had of her as a child. I know, James. Let's kiss. How could you suggest that, Princess Elsie? And when I saw that panel and I looked back at the previous one where Elsie's just like looking off at the fountain, that's when I was like, wait a second, hold on. Are you telling me this is her home? Oh shit. Th- That's the thing. Like the fact that I saw this, I was like, okay, okay. But, but, as soon as that happens, I want everyone to keep this in mind. As soon as that happens, Ziggy, the Kingdom of Lindard was once the most no, pres- uh, prosperous, no, prosperous. I was right. I don't know why I blanked out on that guy. Happens from time to time. The most prosperous planet in the Kaede Cosmos. But behind that prosperity lurked a human struggle for supremacy and an undying obsession with arms development, which automatically you see Elsie looking stoic, looking stern, prepared for Ziggy. How does it feel to be back home? Which, like I said, as soon as I saw that one little flashback panel, little Elsie and Justice, I was like, "Oh shit, this is her home line." No, 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 no. That's which, and he says that right here. How does it feel to be back home? And here's what I thought was interesting because you see the belt that Ziggy's wearing. Correlate that back to what chapter was it? I want to say it was chapter 170. Yeah, it had to be 170. It was 170 where we initially see Shiki's time skip is on. And you see he has the same belt that Ziggy has. I don't know if it's the exact same belt per se, but it looks really, really identical. And interestingly enough, the guy has feet now. Like when we saw him initially, like in again back in the Eden's One arc, mechanical legs. Now you could instantly just say, well, he just has pants. That's it. But I don't know. Like the fact that he has the same belt too, like a belt that's very, very identical to the one that Shiki has. Could it lead some credence to the fact that yeah, Shiki could and or Ziggy could be in fact Shiki? Again, I still want to say that's unlikely and it could just be a massive coincidence. That being said, because of how I know Hero's writing style, going all the way back to Rave Master, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm gonna say that right now. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that, especially looking at this panel now. But it could just be an artistic thing too. Um, right now where I stand on the Shiki being Ziggy theory is, let's say 20% chance that it is accurate, 80% chance that it's not accurate. That's honestly where I stand on that. But yo, Ziggy's looking super slick though. I'm not gonna lie. He is like prepped and everything. Like, oh, how does it feel to be back home? Princess Elsie Lilinder, which again, planet's called Linder, and we have heard Elsie talk about her planet, how it's in the Kaede Cosmos. The fact that this is it, and the fact that she's there, like standing toe to toe against Ziggy, like actually staring, like standing right across from him. I'm a little speechless. I'll be honest. I'm a little speechless when it comes to this moment in particular because, oh, I, let's keep moving on a little bit. So Elsie says Ziggy, and Ziggy says Linder's weaponeering eventually became a threat to the entire Cade cosmos. Even as young as you were, you had misgivings about it, and you handed your own kingdom secrets to others. All you wanted was for your mother and father to stop their brutality. But what resulted was war. Lindard was destroyed. And then Elsie says, I had no idea you were using my fallen kingdom as your base of operations. And Ziggy says, this planet has revived as the home world of mechanical beings. As he grits his fist, grips at it, not grits. Frankly, I have no lingering affection for this wretched rock. Well, okay, it's not necessarily Ziggy that's doing that. It's Elsie. But I refuse to let you have it. And then you see Ziggy looking all menacingly, eh, like, to think you will be our first sacrificial victim. This universe, key thing here, this universe truly is fascinating. And then the chapter ends, and I'm like, of course. Of course, Hero wants to like leave us in suspense and going like, "Yo, what's gonna happen now? What's gonna happen now with uh the story of Eden the year? And in particular, this arc, the Decayed War Arc." Here's the thing: we're only 3 chapters in, and that's scary. The fact that we are only 3 chapters into this war arc, and it's already getting this much suspense and the tension behind it. Like I said, 181 and 182 were already crazy in and of itself. But now this? Like, I don't know what else I can say. I really don't. And it's like I've said for the past couple weeks. We're gonna get some casualties. The fact that Elsie talked about how she's going to be the one to tackle Ziggy, like that was when I already had my suspicions that yes, most likely Elsie's gonna bite the bucket here. And with what's being set up here, the fact that Elsie's standing right there in front of Ziggy, I don't think she's gonna make it out of this. I really, really don't. The only way, and I'm gonna say this right now, the only possible way this actually works of Elsie surviving is maybe Justice. And I say maybe. Maybe Justice shows up. Because technically, I want to say this is technically Justice's homeworld too. I want to say that. It's been a while since I've actually reread which story arc was it? The Foresta arc. It's been a while since I've read that arc again. Since I've read that arc. But I think I do remember Justice saying that he and Elsie kind of did come from the same world. I think. Let me go back and double check because I am curious about that. I do want to just confirm on this more so than not. But let's see real quick. Justice going off from the wiki. Homeworld. He's alive. Yeah, I don't think it's showing anything about like the homeworld or whatnot. But let's see here. It could be that. That's the thing. Again, maybe Justice comes in to save her, or well, I could see Shiki doing it too, but given the dynamic, and I'm not. Is it fair to say Shiki and Elsie have had a deep bond? I'm not going to say it's on the same level as say how his bond is with Rebecca or anybody from the Eden Zero group, but she has been a pretty big friend, if you will, to Shiki. So I can imagine a scenario very similarly to Witch, when it came to Shura, where he gets there and Witch was like just on the floor. Now, granted, Witch was able to be alive for a temporary state of time before she ultimately died again. But I could actually see a scenario where the fight's going down between Ziggy and Elsie. Shiki's just about to get there. And as that happens, dead. I could see that scenario taking place with Elsie. Like I said, in this war right now, on Lindard, Elsie's got the biggest death flag for sure. Anybody else I could think of, maybe Happy, and maybe one of the two Shining Stars. Maybe. Like, it's a maybe. I'm not saying it's definite. I'm saying it's maybe. But overall, when it comes to the chapter, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's an amazing chapter of Eden Zero. It's still kind of like a setup, if you will. Like, a lot of the chapter was focused on like, like the battles, if you will, like a little more of like the skirmishes on what needs to be done. A little bit of a tease from Hermit when it comes to what Dead End Crow did, which the fact that that's planted now kind of makes me wonder. Okay, so what exactly happened? Like, what did Dead End Crow actually do to Holy? And depending on the flashback, that could really change our perception of Holy and her misgivings, if you will, like these little subtle signs that maybe she is going to fully betray them at the end. That could change depending on what we get once we approach Dead End Crow. But again, Elsie, I don't think is going to last. I really don't think she's going to last, especially if she's tackling Ziggy right now this early on. There's no way in hell she's surviving. Um, and like I said, I think before Shiki even gets to Ziggy, there's Dead End Crow to deal with. So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, like I said, the chapter is amazing. I wish we got a little more on some things with Holy, given that there's still not still, but again, just because that door is now open, okay, there's still a little bit more to it that we don't know about. And I kind of just want a little bit more of the chapter. That's the thing. It's a nitpick, but it is a setup chapter, if you will. The story isn't. I want to say we didn't hugely progress, but we did progress in a pretty big way. Automatically getting to Ziggy with Elsie, because I had no doubt we were going to get to this point with Elsie confronting Ziggy. I didn't expect it happening this soon. That still kind of blows my mind. But overall, you guys, that's pretty much all I have to say for this week's chapter of Eden Zero. Again, I do apologize that I wanna I wasn't exactly able to do the stream when the chapter dropped a few days ago, but when I get the chance, you all know I get the opportunity to talk about the chapter. And luckily I was able to talk about it within the same week. But when next week's chapter drop, I do promise I will get to streaming the day it does come out. And if I don't, I'll own up to it. But aside from that, you guys, that's pretty much it when it comes to this live stream discussion of Eden Zero, chapter 183. What was your thoughts on the chapter? What was your favorite part about it? Did you have any gripes about the chapter? Do you guys think Elsie is going to actually bite the bucket now that she has confronted Ziggy head on? And yeah, that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Eden Zero, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.